can't believe that before the game, and I know the Titans on the regular, they do this. We saw what happened in Baltimore last year, regular season, and the playoff game, and these teams had some beef with each other. I can't believe that they make a point to stand on the other team's logo in away games wherever they are. Now, look, if Juju gets his head rocked for doing what he does, that's what he signed up for, okay? Is it different? It's a little bit different because it's during stretching. It's way before the game or whatever. But I've often said, hey, he's having his fun. Let him have his fun. But he knows what's coming if somebody has a problem with it, okay? This one, though, it is a little bit different in so much as it's during introductions, and it is stated pretty much, this is our house. We're here to step on your logo. We're here to do some things and take over your place. Not just as an individual shooting some stupid TikTok, as a team out here. Jumping up and down on your logo, pounding on it. Now, the Steelers are still in the tunnel at the time. But I'm not advocating some big fisticuffs, but I can tell you this. If that word and if this was 15 years ago, they would have had to call the Allegheny County Medical Examiner. Because the Steelers wouldn't have gone into their tunnel if the word was out that the Titans were doing this in other stadiums. Joey Porter
would have stood out there and waited. And
they would have just
guard.
waited. They would have protected their logo.
Right.
I'm telling you that. Like, because people were saying yesterday when they were really breaking this situation down, and it's hilarious that we're breaking down a situation. Like, but
just to be clear, we're not saying it had any impact on the game.
It had no impact on the game.
But this is tradition now with Tennessee.
It has become tradition. They pounce on and jump up and down on other teams' logos. But they wait until that home team is kind of in the tunnel and can't come out. The old Steelers with Clark, with Ferrier, with Porter, with Harrison's crazy ass.
Larry Foote's not putting up with that.
They just would not have left the field. They would have formed a gauntlet in a circle in a perimeter. I swear to you.
Literally like a standing guard.
Around their logo and not allowed them out there.
I could be wrong about this, but I believe that those Steelers might have had something to do with this. That the officials now come out on the field an awful lot earlier than they used to, and this goes back 15 years or so, or maybe even longer than that. But you know what I mean? Like you're right about that.
William Green got punched in the mouth.
Well, yeah, there was that. It was James Harrison's debut, which was great.
Another thing not to downplay is sometimes that starts with the old Steelers 15 years ago. Their wounded warriors would have stepped up. The guys that were hurt and not playing that week. They would have been out there. Like, I can't think of who was out there. Olu or somebody would have been standing out there and said, no. And then all it takes is a couple guys yelling and screaming, and here comes the cavalry.
Yep, then it pops off.
Yes,
yeah.
And then it's on. Then the Steelers would have made a quick entrance from their tunnel. But the Titans thinking that, first of all, they're an organization that's won jack.
Well, you want to talk about going back?
Shouldn't they have learned over the years?
That's what I was going to say. You want to talk about going back 15, 20 years. This is the team that Keith Bullock blew his nose on the terrible towel.
Lendale White
stomped on it on the sidelines. I mean, they have not learned their lesson about tempting fate. And again, we're not seriously saying this had any impact on the game.
No.
But it's just funny. It's that every time the Titans do something like this against the Steelers, it seemingly comes back and bites them in the ass.
Well, here's the other part, and I mean this from a football sense, and maybe just where the game has gone. And I'm not one of these back in my day, Big Mo and Little Mo and all these guys. They'd eat your guts out and they'd serve them for dinner. Right?
Off.
I'm not that guy. But Bud Dupree is in the middle of the field jumping up and down on the Steelers logo. If you watch that video, he is the guy that is in the center of this. And then after the game, you got guys taking pictures with him. You know, I'm just saying, if this is Harrison, and I don't want to sound like an old-timer, and I know I'm coming off like a boomer, but if this is Harrison and this is Peasy and those guys, they say, hey, you know what, thanks, but no thanks, my man. Like, I don't want people to go out there and try to kill each other and legitimately hate each other. But that display before the football game is a bit much for me. And I'd say the same thing if the Steelers went and jumped on the Baltimore logo or went and jumped on the Tennessee logo, and then that team came out and kicked their ass and ran out on the field and stuff. I'd say, hey, you knew what you guys were getting into. Why are you trying to if you perform that act, you're doing nothing but trying to incite.
All it takes is it to fire up one guy, and one guy maybe makes one
Tuska.
play.
They got the Tuska
Taco
yesterday.
Charlton gets fired up.
Yeah.
Taco says, no more. Not on my watch, and gets a hand up and deflects a pass. But seriously, I think after the game, after the final whistle, the clock's at all zeros, the place is everybody's filed out, or is in the process of leaving. I think everybody's cooled off at that point. The old jersey swap. Everybody does that now. But I do agree with you that it wouldn't have happened pregame if we're talking about a prior Steelers defense.
They would have had to call the National Guard in if that happened whenever Porter and those guys were playing. And Jim, you've been a million. You ever remember another team jumping on the Steelers logo?
No.
I
no.
just don't.
No, and we thought, it was like with Juju last year, and did it make a difference? No, but it does it do your team any good?
No.
I mean, the Steelers were so fired up, they fell behind 13-3 at halftime.
Right.
I mean, it could have been. Think how bad it would have been if they weren't fired up.
Well, I've always said, hey, Juju's having his fun, whatever, let him do what he wants. But if he gets rocked, then, like think of what happened, and it was in the course of a game, not pregame, when people try to mess with Dallas's star.
Yeah.
You have had people run 80 yards to knock somebody
Full
out.
Sprint.
Right. I just, again, I'm not advocating violence, but it was something to see that yesterday.
Football violence.
I couldn't believe it. It's just, what are they doing?
And they're the Titans. This isn't the early 2000 Patriots.
I'm telling you, this is a sneak. It's why I played the Nedney field goal in Breakfast Bites on Friday. This is a sneaky rivalry. Like, there's enough moments between these two teams, especially when you take it back to the Oilers. There's enough history between these two organizations.
Remember their strength guy threw hot coffee on somebody once?
No.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yes.
His name was Watterson.
Look that up. That's a sneaky moment in this rap.
Yeah.
He threw a hot thing of coffee on somebody.
Can't remember who it was on.
Uh-huh.
But
I mean, this goes back to
in the middle of the game?
Yes.
I do remember that. And
somebody came into the sideline.
Uh-huh. This goes back to
Why
Noel.
don't I remember
there was
that?
a famous where Chuck Noll grabbed
Glanville's hand and wouldn't let go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was like, yeah. So there was a lot of.
And he said, I mean it. Chuck Noll said that to me. Like, I'm going to cut somebody loose, and I mean it. Yes.
It was Joey Porter.
See?
That said Steve Watterson threw coffee on him as he ran out of bounds.
Uh-huh. It's that sneaky. You're right about it.
I tackled McNair and went out of bounds, and a little bald-headed guy came over and threw some coffee on me. He thought he was slick about it. He handed the cup to his player. I saw the whole thing on tape. I'm hoping we get to play him again.
I mean, that just gets...
That's typical Peasy,
like
isn't
Porter.
it?
Yeah. Right. It's just cold water, but let Peasy play it up. Who cares? I love it.
Could you see him watching that from his TV room yesterday when that was going on?
That
he was probably like standing up, going, "I'm supposed to get in his car and drive down there."
Yeah, right. Walked right into the stadium. Put a uniform on.